Well, howdy there, folks. Welcome into today's video. A few things to speak about here. Palantir stock, the huge news we've all been waiting for, happened here today, and the stock price is tanking. So we're going to speak about that, what's kind of going on there, my opinions and perspectives on that. Then there's three videos I want to react to here. First one up here is this is a crazy situation in regards to OpenAI and Microsoft, and I want to kind of tell my opinion on Microsoft stock in this video and kind of talk about this a little bit, and do I think this is a bullish thing for Microsoft, a bearish thing, and those sorts of things. But nearly all employees are threatening to leave OpenAI, which is just a crazy, I mean, literally just a few days ago, it seemed like it was the hottest company in the world to work for. Now employees are threatening to leave. Like, that's crazy, okay? Then we're going to go ahead and react to this one from a few hours ago. And it's really an inflection point into the small caps. So we'll speak about that. And then last video up here I want to react to is John Deere's report earnings tomorrow morning. And Stephanie Link's saying they're going to miss earnings. That's a pretty bold claim there. So I thought, what is she talking about? Like, why does she so confident that they're going to miss earnings here? This should be really interesting. So appreciate you guys joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here. New all-time high subscribers. By the way, I'm going to be hopping on Twitch here in just a moment. We're going to broadcast NVIDIA's earnings live on there. So if you want to join me for the live NVIDIA earnings plus the NVIDIA conference call, check out the, it'll be the second pinned comment down there, and join me on there. It's going to be a crazy freaking live stream on there. I can tell you that much on Twitch here today. And then the first pinned comment down there is we're only a little over 48 hours away from the once a year massive sale. This is the best deal we've done in years overall. $62 for access to my #1 course ever, my #1 stock market course ever, plus to see the moves I'm making, exactly how I diversify the portfolio. If you want access to that, first pin comment down there, enter in your info. We will send it over on Black Friday. It's a 1 day and 1 day only sale, okay? Alrighty, guys, so first off, let's talk about Palantir, okay? So news comes out that, we get the NHS contract. Huge deal, obviously. We're talking about this is, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue for the company and probably good profits. Not only that, it's also great branding for the company that they get a major contract like this, right? Absolutely huge. It also could lead to much other bigger deals in the government space overall, in the European market in general. It also can get a lot of European companies off their butt and to say we should take Palantir more serious as well. So phenomenal news. And what happens to the stock price? It's down like 7% here today, right? Stock tanking. When most people thought when this contract finally comes out, it's going to, the stock price is going to spike higher. And if anything, the stock will be up 7%, 10%. So down 7%. So what's going on here, okay? I'll put it like this. This is exactly what's going on. 4 words: buy, rumor, sell, news. 4 words, okay? Buy the rumor, sell the news is exactly what happened here with Palantir. Everybody knew that as a Palantir shareholder cares anything about this company. Everybody knew we were getting this NHS contract. We knew it. It was just a matter of time before the announcement happened, right? And so some people thought when the announcement comes, the stock's going to have another leg higher, and you need to be playing call options, all those things. This is why it just pays to be a long-term investor. You don't see me trying to, get in Palantir tomorrow and out of it and in and out of it. I own the stock for the long term. I started buying, last year? I kept adding shares. I've added more shares this year and making tons of money on the stock. And overall, just focus on the long term there. Not trying to worry about all these short-term moves. They got crazy options, expirations going on in regards to Palantir. Everybody can play those games. I'm not here to play these games. And, shout out to the other people that are, in a stock like that for the long term. Let the short-term people gamble around with the shares and up and down and all that stuff. At the end of the day, as a long-term investor, we're going to do our thing. We'll make our money. And that will be that. And whenever the time comes for us to sell out, whether that's, years from now or 5 years from now or 10 years from now or whatever that time is, right? 20 years from now, who knows? Cool, that's when we can make our move. But the rest of it's just a short-term game, okay? Short-term game. Buy the rumor, sell the news. It's a very famous expression. It's exactly what happened here today, okay? Now, next up here, let's get into this Microsoft situation. I'm going to talk about Microsoft stock, share my opinions and perspectives, and then we'll get into those other 2 interesting videos there.
Rundown of what has been a very fast-moving story over the last 24
hours.
Very fast-moving.
Right.
Yesterday, ousted CEO Sam Altman joined an AI research team at Microsoft that was at least where it looked like it was going. Then shortly after that, nearly all of OpenAI's employees threatened to quit and follow Altman to Microsoft unless the current board of OpenAI reinstates Altman and resigns.
Wild.
So then after that, it was open season on employees from the leaders in AI technology. Salesforce's
Freaking Benioff
posting on X that he would immediately employ researchers who reside from OpenAI, matching cash
Benioff's
equity,
such a hustler.
Join Salesforce's AI team. And then late
There's
yesterday,
levels to
Microsoft's
hustlers, and
Satya
Benioff is
Nadella
number one.
Spoke to John Ford on Fast Money in a first on CNBC interview and said Microsoft would still benefit whether OpenAI's workers stayed or followed Altman to Microsoft.
I care about just making sure that we can continue to innovate. And as I said, I feel very, very confident. Quite frankly, Microsoft has all the capability to just do that on our own. But we chose to explicitly partner with OpenAI, and we want to continue to do so. And obviously that depends on the people and of OpenAI and staying there or coming to Microsoft. So I'm open to both options.
Nadella said that no matter what happens, OpenAI needs governance changes. Microsoft stock rising more than 2% yesterday, closing at a record high. And then on top of all of this, Bloomberg reporting overnight an internal memo to OpenAI employees from the company's vice president of global affairs. It said that it's in intense discussions to unify the company and that management is in touch with Altman, the company's interim CEO, Emmett Shear, and the board, but they were not prepared to.
So let me tell you what's actually going on here. What's likely going to play out, okay? Likely Microsoft's going to steal the whole freaking OpenAI company. Like, there's a pretty good probability Microsoft's going to steal the whole damn company. And they're going to just finish a finished out buyout of OpenAI overall. And there's a good probability that the other shareholders at OpenAI are going to agree to this. And the reason being is, I mean, are they going to have a company? Like, if all the employees are threatening to leave OpenAI, right? Altman's not coming back. You're kind of stuck in a forced situation. Like, damn, like, we either get some money from this, and there's a lot of money on the line, or we're stuck in a situation where we're going to get potentially nothing from this if OpenAI just, falters over the coming years because all their good employees leave, right? And they'll go to Microsoft or other companies in general. So Microsoft's going to likely end up stealing the company. It's actually surprisingly enough bullish on for Microsoft stock in the short term, right? OpenAI is not a major contribution in terms of bottom line or even top line for that matter, and won't be for at least several years. But it's just more of a positive catalyst of just putting Microsoft like in the front runner spot, maybe it's seen at least, for AI. And so, Microsoft stock, always just a solid, good company with growth, and they consistently hit good numbers, right? And, there's some funny stuff going on behind the scenes probably, but it is what it is, and damn, Microsoft's going to likely benefit huge from this whole situation.
A final response as of last night separately. Reuters also reporting that some venture investors in OpenAI were exploring legal recourse against the company's board, worried that
there's going to be
millions of dollars if the company.
Lawyers are going to make a freaking fortune off this whole situation. I can tell you. Oh my gosh. Because you're talking about OpenAI, which has a massive valuation on it. I mean, what was it, $80-90 billion valuation? Microsoft's a multi-trillion-dollar market cap. The amount of legal crap that it's going to be a mess. And that's going to be for years. But with that being said, even if Microsoft has to spend $1 billion, which is a crazy amount, I don't think they'll spend $1 billion a year on legal expense. But even if they did, it's still all a speeding ticket in the end for them. As in the Social Network movie, it's all a speeding ticket in the end.
And, Becky, we talked yesterday about the valuation of, did Microsoft overpay or whatever?
Where's my mouse,
It looks to me like it's the venture capitalists who actually, oddly enough, have the most to lose. And the Microsoft, given how they structured their deal, are pretty much in a good position almost either way, at least on a temporary basis, since they own the current OpenAI technology.
100%.
They may not get the future stuff.
No, 100%. I kind of changed my thinking on the line of it over the arc of the show yesterday. By about 7:45 or 8 o'clock, I was thinking Microsoft had really gotten a huge coup, that they'd walk out. Because when you saw the idea that yesterday more than 500 of the 770 employees had said that they were going to walk with them, by today, the latest I'd seen, it was over 700 of those employees said that they were going to go to Microsoft or wherever Sam Altman went with those things. Wow. I mean, talk about the collapse of a company. OpenAI went to zero, because the other issue on all of that is that they can't train their...
So, the other great news, and I mean great news for Microsoft, right, is they just acquired a man that is seen as a visionary. And the fact that all these employees want to follow him wherever he goes, those are ride or die employees. They're like, wherever you go, dude, we're going. That's huge. And that speaks volumes to maybe, what he has going on, not just as far as his intellectual prowess, but maybe as a leader, maybe as just somebody in general. Like, maybe he's somebody that will lead Microsoft long term, right? Like Satya Nadella eventually won't be the CEO of that company. And so you always got to think, like, who takes the reins next? Like, maybe it's setting up where, Altman maybe down the road is the big dog there. I don't know. But all I can tell you is that speaks volumes. That's really good. And that means whatever he was doing culture-wise was phenomenal inside that company.
Their programs.
Where's my
their
freaking mouse?
AI programs
Where's my
without Microsoft. So, they're tied at the hip to Microsoft no matter what happens with it. It went from thinking, and by the way, the $13 billion that Microsoft invested, they didn't actually invest. They have, these are promises to pay more over time if OpenAI continues.
Anybody watching this has got a baby? You know what I'm talking about when just like stuff gets misplaced all over the place and it's like, you got to spend 10 minutes searching for stuff all the time.
And a lot of it's in kind. A lot of it's in kind.
Right. With the
in terms of servers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so Microsoft clearly the big winner on this. You saw that with the stock closing at an all-time high yesterday. There's still a lot that has to be resolved, and you even heard that in that interview with Satya Nadella yesterday. He can't tell you who's going to be the OpenAI CEO today or tomorrow. He can't tell you if Sam Altman and company are coming to work for Microsoft. They were in the process of onboarding them as employees when he was kind of pushed on that question on it. He said he's leaving it up to the lawyers to figure out all the legal terms and the liability for the other investors who might sue as a result. But he just wants to make sure that where he knew he stood Friday, which was feeling very comfortable with what their game plan is for all the products they can roll out over the next year or two. They still feel very comfortable with that. He's still working with Sam Altman. He's still working with OpenAI or in whatever way, shape, or form. And you saw it yesterday. Salesforce, Mark Benioff, putting out a tweet saying, we will hire anybody at the same compensation who wants to come over here. So it was just open season. Everybody looking to capitalize. Google was doing the same thing. I think Sergey Brin's been really actively involved with trying to get some of these things too. OpenAI basically.
I love Benioff. Like, if you're ever an entrepreneur, there's certain people you really just would like. And I'll just tell you, if you're anybody that's, trying to start a business or you have ambitions to start a business and things like that, study up on Benioff a bit. That man's a freaking hustler, and he built that company from a nobody, nothing company into ultimately one of the most successful companies in the world. Absolutely just a special story there. And it's a very different story than obviously a lot of this big CEOs of tech companies out there, because like Bezos really doesn't have much to do with Amazon anymore, right? Obviously, Musk is still leading Tesla, but I think he focuses more on X. There's a whole other subject. Tim Cook at Apple, right? Tim Cook, obviously not the founder of the company, and he's just been a very good executive over time. Same thing with Satya Nadella over there at Microsoft. Same thing with Sundar Pichai, or I can never pronounce his name right. The gentleman who runs Google now, he's not the founder of the company. So there's actually very few individuals that are leading massive companies nowadays that were actually there from the ground up and building them from a nothing into what they became. And Benioff's one of those few, and the guy's just a freaking hustler. And I'm just telling you, like, if you want to, if you're excited to ever start business or get those things up and running, like, you kind of got to look for inspiration. And I think Benioff's a great man to look for that inspiration.
Imploded over 72 hours. And this was open season, and Satya Nadella did what he had to do to make sure. He said, we're going to make sure we keep the brain power. That's basically what he's doing, and that's why Microsoft shares perform so well. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, acting like a complete entrepreneur. I saw somebody say Satya Nadella was the complete entrepreneur CEO mindset with the assets of a multi-billion-dollar company. So he managed this position the best he possibly could. The one thing he said... If they go back to OpenAI, there's got to be some governance changes, because we're not going to get left out of the loop again.
Yeah, crazy. Okay, next up here, there's a real inflection point in small caps. This should be interesting. And then John Deere's going to miss earnings tomorrow. The stock's going to tank. What's going on?
Strategy at RBC Capital Markets in studio. And you know what I'm hoping? That I can understand. Since you're here and I can actually talk to you, I'm going to understand all this. I understand a lot of it when you come up, but you're so good at this, and it is somewhat esoteric, obviously, the option market. And
nice
your point is that people are asking you now, this rally, okay? Yep. What am I supposed to think of it in terms of what options are telling me to think of it? Because they don't trust it. They think it's kind of spotty, not going to last. And you're telling them that, in fact, the options market says there's something going on here.
It has legs, and upon that, too, it also has breadth. So, look, the options market is really good at picking out where there's FOMO. So even if you think back to AMC or GameStop or NVIDIA, the options market tells you when people start getting that FOMO, and that usually exacerbates momentum for a while, right? Now, what we're seeing is there's really an inflection point in the small caps. So IWM, our Russell 2000 ETF, we're really seeing historic bullish optional sentiment. You see that through the call demand buying.
Seriously?
And this is something where small caps kind of has had fits and starts, right? We've had a lot of strategists say, the time to buy small caps, and that hasn't really worked kind of the last few years. And essentially what the options market is telling you this time is that you're also seeing that FOMO there, which would be a breadth argument to the market that's been very top heavy.
It would mean that as you say, that the rally
I'll put it like
is
this.
broadening out.
I'll put it like this very simply, okay, in regards to this whole small cap situation, small cap stocks. One of two scenarios is playing out over this next, I would say, 12 to 18 months, okay? Probably closer to 12 months. So one of these two scenarios. The first one is the Russell goes up substantially and catches up to the S&P 500. The second possibility is the S&P 500 is going to crash, Russell's not going to get hit very hard, and those two come together. One of those two scenarios is playing out over this next 12 to 18 months. It's one of those two. And so you can try to guess, is it the S&P 500 crashes and comes back to the Russell, or is it the Russell catches up, right? And I think that really depends on your view of the stock market in general. If you think it's going to be a bullish next 12 to 18 months, or if you think we're going to ultimately crash over this next 12 to 18 months, right? But one of those two scenarios is playing out because these have had massive divergence the last couple of years. It doesn't stay like that for long. Does not stay like that for long. And these two are going to come back together, S&P 500 and the Russell.
So broadening out.
In the past 5 years, the Russell's up like 20% versus the S&P 500's up like 70%. And the Qs are up over 100%.
This end of cycle stuff?
That's not lasting.
I mean, we were just showing a bunch of meme stocks. When you get a bullish sentiment there,
thank you.
More
why are you freaking showing GameStop, dude?
Or towards the end of a move?
Yeah, so I think two things are happening in terms of the nuance. The first is I think people, when they look at this rally, they've said, look, it's so low quality. It's very squeezy, right? But the reality is, and this is from our equity strategist, if you actually look at the names within the Russell 2000 themselves, their balance sheets have actually gotten a lot stronger. And when you look at their debt maturities, where that maturity wall is actually 4 to 5 years out. So I think that there is this misunderstanding of, are we talking about this bucket or that bucket? But the other thing is mega cap tech has to remain okay. And the options market is also saying that the sentiment there hasn't waned. So it kind of hasn't changed since NVIDIA, but it hasn't waned. And that would concern me, obviously, because of the heavyweightness of the tech, but that's also not changing. And you're getting the small caps kind of joining the party.
So I saw in your notes you used the adverb, right? Squeezy. You used the
squeezy.
And by that,
squeezy,
you mean
little wheezy.
that some of the moves higher are seen as because it's short, people are getting squeezed. Is that what you mean by?
Yeah.
But if the fundamentals are improving, and the debt is, you said 5 years out, then that's not what it is. Then it's actually some underlying strength, not just caused by short covering.
I think the problem is both are happening. So when you look at like these most shorted baskets, they're also up. When you look at, we have a low quality basket that we track, which is essentially, negative free cash flow, negative net income, high debt to leverage. Like those are also rallying, very similar to what we saw at the beginning of this year. But what we're trying to say is, yes, those things are happening. However, fundamentally, you are also getting these shifts in the higher quality names too. And it's very, very bullish and very indicative within small caps specifically, to a point where, we haven't seen this level of bullish sentiment in kind of like the last 5 years. And we have seen that in mega cap tech, but we haven't seen it in the breadth that you would see in the Russell 2000.
So why is the market so unloved? The recent rally, why is it so suspect to so many people?
Two things are happening. I think one, especially in our market.
Before she goes, let me just answer that, okay? Why are people suspect of rallies in the market? One is The market hasn't gone anywhere for, over 2 years now at this point in time, right? So the longer you get in that sort of cycle, the more people just distrust rallies. And the second component of that is still recession worries for obviously next year, right? And so just between those two, bearish sentiment plus recession worries still out there. Whether that happens or not is a whole other subject, but it's just the fact that it's out there. That's why everybody's so, I don't know about these rallies and things like that.
People in general, that there's very little hedging. So there is this complacency in the market. It makes folks ask, why are we so complacent? So I'll give you one stat. When you look at tail protection, so just a market drawdown, how much does it cost to protect? We're below levels we saw since October 7th when the Israel-Hamas war started. Really? That's the market telling you that it's not even pricing in that risk at all. So I think what happens is, you do get these kind of call it May 2020 style, a lot of FOMO on one side, call demand, and also the lack of hedging. And people ask, how concerned should we be that doesn't exist?
Does that lead to massive volatility? I mean, is that if you have no hedging built into it?
Yeah, if you're a high net worth individual, right, you got to be hedging your portfolio. Like I'm hedged for next year. If the big one does come and we do tank next year, which, I don't think it's the highest probability, but it's a potential, I'm going to make a lot of money in that sort of situation off my hedges. I got several different hedges lined up. And if things go bad, boom, 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 those are going to be looking really good, and I'm going to be able to flip those with huge profits into other opportunities, right? If it doesn't happen, that's great as well. I'm obviously always so far along in the market that's great for me as well. I have some phenomenal videos inside my private stock group that go into hedging. I think one video alone's 45 minutes going through different hedging strategies. The more money you have, I think the more you have to at least learn about hedging and try to figure out how can you properly hedge your portfolio. I think that's the way I would look at it, right? If you got $5,000 in your portfolio, do you need to hedge? It's not even worth it at that stage. It's a whole different ball game. If you got $500,000, you should probably at least consider learning some stuff about hedging, right? If you got $1 million, you got multi-million dollars. The more money you have, the more important hedging is. And there's a reason why so many high net worth individuals, why don't just all the high net worth individuals put money in the S&P 500 or in the Qs or something like that? Why do they put their money in hedge funds? Ask yourself that for a moment. There's reasons, okay? There's a lot of reasons behind that. And so, just some food for thought in that sort of situation.
And then suddenly the situation changes over a day or over a weekend or over a holiday period.
Yeah. So look, I feel like
those hedges can print so much money in a big downward market. And then the best part is you get to go and flip that money into positions at just the stupidest, cheapest prices. Or into call options and things like that, when the market's already down 30, 40, 50%, and just make bank. In the alpha you get during that particular time period, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, in a 12 to 24 month span, you can make hundreds of percent. If you're properly hedged going in, and you flip over to the long side when the Fed's about to pump like crazy, which they always do, and they cut to nothing, and then they're going to help out the system, and next thing you know, market fly. Oh my gosh!
As a derivatives person, your job is to just think of you're like Eeyore, basically. Whatever the worst case scenario is, that's what you stay awake at night thinking about. And the issue is volatility in our market is very suppressed. There are a lot of people who are selling volatility because it's another way to enhance yield. And then on top of that, there's no hedging, because hedging hasn't worked at all. So the market was down 20% last year, but if you hedge that market, you're actually down 21%. That's kind of a fail from the options.
Not true at all, to be honest. Because let's be honest, if you thought the market was going to be, have some troubles in 2022 because the Fed was going to be raising rates, you were likely going to hedge against many of the big tech high flyers at that particular time, which many of those stocks then went on to drop from November 2021 through October of 2022. Almost all those stocks fell 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%. If you had hedged going in, all your hedges, which you're going to usually hedge by buying puts, are going to be up hundreds of percent. Some of those would probably be up 1,000% plus. It would have been ridiculous how much money you would have printed, right? So I don't agree with her saying about, if you now it depends on how you hedge. No different than when you go long the market. What stocks are you actually in, right? It's been a freaking amazing year for me, and I'm sure for some of you guys watching this video right now, you've probably made stupid money this year. Hasn't been that way for everybody. If you've been in dividend stocks, you're probably down significantly this year. You know, somebody like myself, I'm up 7 figures plus this year. I'm sure a lot of you guys are up 4 figures, 5 figures, 6 figures. Probably some of you guys are even up 7 figures this year. If you're in dividend stocks all this year, you're down significantly this year.
Kind of. So, yeah. and so, you know, if you're a risk officer and that hasn't worked, it's hard to say I'm going to double that up. And so you do get these like 2017 to 2018 events where there was a Volmageddon, especially because there was very suppressed volatility. And then you had
Volmageddon, you called it?
Volmageddon. Yeah, I didn't even come up with that. It's just, you know, people call it that, February 2018. And so, look, that is a tail event that I think folks are concerned about. And again, tails are very inexpensive. It's not the most likely scenario.
Yeah, good point. By the way, I don't have time to get in this John Deere one. I got to freaking get this video out, and then I got to get on that Twitch live stream because it's in videos earnings. I can't be late today. It's way too important. So appreciate you guys joining me. You want to join me on Twitch for the NVIDIA earnings in the conference call, pin comment down there. The main pin comment down there will be access to 48 hours away, 1 day Black Friday sale. You need access to that, folks. So make sure you check out both those. Much love and have a great day.